problem. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan. Cause
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Salt of the Streets podcast, the most pro-America, anti-government show you know. The show where we discuss news, government, and culture and how it pertains to you, the individual, and your natural rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I am that big bird-looking fella they call Colin. I am, of course, joined by my lovely brother-in-arms, co-host, master of all things and stuff like that, Mr. Donovan. How you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, sir. How are you?
We're living, baby. We're living. It is Saturday. We've had it's been a wild week, and my mind right now is just blown by this conversation we're having about Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, 48 years old.
He's 48 years old.
48.
Right before we started rolling the show, we're talking about The Machinist. And then,
yes.
How did we even end up on Machinist? Because we were talking about Natalie Portman at one point, but then we got into Machinist and Christian Bale.
The things that people do for movies because
she cut her hair.
She cut her hair.
Yes, that's right. And I just want to make sure the internet knows she is still as gorgeous with the hair or without.
Because cutting your hair and losing 60 pounds is the exact same thing.
No, one of those is markedly more impressive.
So.
And then how many months was it until he was doing Batman?
5.5.
5.5 months.
Between The Machinist and Batman Begins.
That's so nuts.
We're out here.
So we're out here. What else are we gonna? What are we gonna be talking about today, good sir?
Yeah, we got a great show going on for everybody today. Obviously, we have a couple of local stories, and then we're gonna go over a Breaking Points clip that we watched earlier this week that has to do with the Fetterman-Oz debate that happened in Pennsylvania. Part 2. We're going to be going over World War III. World War III, it's happening. It's going on. So
popping.
We're going to be talking about some more about the Iranian drones that we talked about the last time we were here. There's some missiles now being sent over there. I think we heard about right at the end of the show last time, maybe the day after. We're going to be talking about some training that's being done by the SAS in the UK. And also, of course, there's some U.S. Special Forces down there. I think I may have heard somebody say that like when this all first happened. But I'm not
like
sure
months and months and months ago.
It's really weird. It's almost like we fucking knew that this was happening. So we have now some written evidence. I told Colin, I literally didn't even try and look up any articles because I was so certain that I was correct that I wasn't even going to question it. Just waiting until it's happened. And now they're like, oh yeah, as far back as April this was happening. It's like, oh man, it's so weird. Yeah.
So weird how that happens.
Yes. And then we also, of course, are going to be talking about the letter from the Progressive Caucus of the Democrats that was withdrawn immediately afterwards, within 24 hours afterwards by Pramila Jayapal. And then, of course, an update on the amount of money that is being spent by the United States in Ukraine, because it is important to underline all of this, that all of this is being paid for with your tax dollars.
How much of your tax
$1.4 billion. It's hard to even say it. It's so much.
So we'll dive into that.
Yeah. And then, of course, in part 3, we're going to be talking about the degradation of the U.S. military. So we have a couple of stories from the Washington Post going over veterans being contracted by different nations, the UAE, Saudi Arabia. It's all bad news. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the lowering of physical standards a little bit. And then, of course, a story that we've touched on, I think, about the SEAL training and Hell Week and stuff like that. And there's this push against how horrible these things are. Talking about that. And then the grab bag for part 4. We're going to talk a little bit about Elon Twitter, because I know you did your live stream about that last night. And then we have this Chinese spies weapon. You have a whole slew of things.
We got a whole slew of things. We got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, we got a big show going on. Before we get into that, I want to thank everybody for joining us here. YouTube.com. Salt of the Streets. We also, of course, have our Instagram.com, Salt of the Streets. All of this can be found at saltofthestreets.com, including our Patreon, patreon.com/Salt of the Streets.
Yes. The Paul Pelosi thing is intense right now.
The Paul Pelosi thing is wild. Yeah. So, where's Nancy?
Where's Nancy?
Yeah, so, of course, patreon.com. Go there, subscribe, help us make more, better content just like this. We have the clips. We have the book club that's going on. This month's book is for just a few more days of World War Z. We're closing up. I'm sure everybody has done. It's 2 more days. That book was incredible. It was a very easy read for as many pages as it was. And the next month's book is How to Have Impossible Conversations by James Lindsay and Peter Boghossian. So, of course, get that. And we have lowered or shortened the timeline on that. So, Thanksgiving, because you're going to need it when you sit down at the table. are...
It's never been my reality.
No,
ever in my life.
Me either.
It's such the stereotypical thing to hear. Oh yeah, you're gonna go there, and then there's people are gonna argue, and you see it in fucking sitcoms and all this stuff. Like somebody comes there and he makes it a bad time. They all ruin fucking Thanksgiving for anybody. Never once. I've never experienced that. None of my friends have ever experienced that I know of. Anyways, I feel like I would have heard it.
I've had uncomfortable conversations, but never ruined.
Yeah.
It's always been able to be salvaged.
Like if somebody is going to ruin my Thanksgiving, they're not coming over to my fucking house.
Oh.
Like I'm just not going to invite them.
I've had interactions with people that are very close family members. It's like, well, this one's too close to not invite.
Oh.
So
and yeah. Well, I could see that. I could see that.
Other people who were married into the family.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, neither of us are going anywhere. so I've had some moments like that.
No, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense.
Our sponsor for this, the newsletters, of course, that comes out at the end of the month, and the review preview on the first day of the month. Our sponsor for this segment, Swab Blended. SwabBlended.com. Get your haircuts. He's helping me maintain. He's helping me grow this out. This beautiful mane that we have going on here. In just a few short months, it will be a modernized, revolutionary haircut. It's going to be fantastic.
And you don't know it yet, but we're going to get you a whole cosplay outfit. We're going to dress you up like Mel Gibson from The Patriot, and we're going to do a photo shoot. And those pictures will be exclusively available on Patreon.
That's right.
We'll do it like we'll do it the OnlyFans style. So we'll get a Polaroid camera, and we'll do a bunch of Polaroids. And then if you subscribe to the Patreon, you can buy yourself a signed Polaroid of Donovan Patriot Warrior Extreme.
That's right. I want to remind everyone
That's going to be a thing.
Yes. I want to remind everyone to like, comment, subscribe on this video, and of course, evaluate and adjust your relationship with the CCP. To underline for everybody that almost a quarter of my hair. Jesus Christ! How long is your hair, Bilbo? I've got to see
it's
it.
4 times longer than yours.
Yeah.
Do you play bass? Because I feel like a lot of guys that have long hair play bass in rock bands.
I wanted to mention, as I tell everyone to evaluate and adjust relationship with the CCP, right? I was starting mine with shoes. I haven't bought a pair of shoes since I said I wasn't going to buy another pair of shoes that wasn't made in America. Last night, plays drums. There it is. Last night,
good man.
I ordered my first pair of American-made shoes.
From
SOM Footwear, SOM Footwear. I ordered my first pair of American shoes.
I know this brand for some reason. It's
I've
ringing
showed
a bell
them to you before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll even show you. Yeah, there you go. Let's pull it up and we can...
SOM, right?
SOM Footwear. Yeah, they're Colorado-based, I think. Yep.
Fucking basic-ass website, guys.
Yeah,
come on,
super
you're not
basic.
trying to...
So go to Sporty, right?
Sporty. Yeah, we don't want sports. We want sporty.
No, Sporty. Yep. And then the New Trail Air. Those second ones in the top row. The middle ones in the top row. Yep.
Those do not. I don't hate those.
They don't suck. I like the highlights too.
Wait
if I
a minute.
like these shoes, I'm gonna get the highlights. I like the high top ones.
These ones down here.
I do like the blue ones, and they're on sale because they're due like limited runs. So those blue ones were a certain amount of time. So they're not making any new pairs. And I have big enough feet that usually I can sneak a pair of
fucking
shoes.
Does homie at work wear these? Shadow?
I have no idea.
He always wears these crazy. I got to look next time because
I have no idea.
they look real familiar. They look dope though. I like that. We got some vented neoprene perhaps right there.
It's not neoprene. No, it's some type of mesh something. But
looks nice though.
There we go.
All right.
Definitely want non-slave labor shoes, and that's exactly where we're at. Is I was not.
Yeah, try to find them.
Yes.
Tough.
I went to buy a pair of shoes, and I was made uncomfortable by how difficult it was to find a pair of shoes that was made in America that I also liked the look of. Obviously, not all these shoes are good looking. It took me a long time to find a pair of sneakers that I actually fucked with.
I don't hate those.
These have a neoprene tongue also. The tongue is neoprene. So
Fucking
super soft tongue. They're real lightweight, and they last long enough. They resold these shoes. You can send your shoes in to be resold for like $15.
Dude, I do not hate these.
So obviously,
I wish I had some more colors and stuff, but like
as for most, and they make new styles all the time. So like every 6 months or something, they got a new color scheme on one of these shoes.
Look at
so
that.
they're making new shit. Yeah.
Trendy.
Yes. So I bought my first pair. Hopefully I'll get them next week. I will have them by the time we do the next episode, so I'll be able to show them off when I'm here. But, yeah.
I like it. I like it.
They're
Good
not
shit.
bad. They're not bad at all. Obviously, they're like $150, something like that. The initial investment, as is most things, is going to be like a little bit higher. But again, not a child in another country made them in a weird factory or something like that, or they weren't made and profit given to the CCP or some random shit like that. Because that's what I was running. I found those great shoes out of Brazil or something like that, and they were, these are good for the environment and all that type of stuff. But their factories are still in China.
Yeah.
That's great. And they're like, we have contracts to make sure that, the labor and all this type of stuff. Like, I don't believe anything
dude.
the CCP
Sure.
says. So why are we going to start there? So,
No, I like this, man, because this is a big thing, actually, because it's been big lately. Like, shoes that are actually shaped like feet.
yes.
They're not super pointed and shit at the end like
and they got
most
real
shoes
wide
are.
feet, too. So they're got a
Zero
good
drop.
wide toe box and stuff.
That dude's got his toes are way too wide.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Yeah, and I just have like the knuckles in my feet are big, not
Big nuts?
Yeah, they're not splayed out like that. Just
got
the
big
same
toe nuts,
the
bro?
same way that my hand is, just that like my MCPs are fat, So whatever it's your metatarsals in your feet. So
Oh, I'm sure.
that's
Yeah.
that's
that
what
sounds
it is.
That sounds right.
These are your metacarpals and your metatarsals are in your feet.
okay.
That's what the MCP is. Your metacarpals.
I know this.
Yeah. I know.
I know.
Yeah, we all know these things. Yeah, no. So we got big tarsals, bro. That's all. So first pair of American shoes coming. Well, I'll have them the next time we're here. I have a full review because I'll have a couple of days of standing in them and walking in them and doing all that type of shit. So
Yeah, the ability to stand in a shoe for a long period of time is not something a lot of shoes have. Yeah, no, most shoes don't have an arch board
right.
these days. Yeah,
And
unless you're buying
that's-
like running shoes,
Yeah,
and half the time not even those.
some of that stuff isn't really good for you. I don't know.
That's
I don't
what I
know.
hear.
I'm not even gonna get into
The
'cause I
shoe
don't know that
science,
much,
bro,
but-
is like the science of drinking a glass of red wine every night. It's like it changes every 6 months or whatever. I don't know.
I know that for our job, I like to have a flat shoe that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty thin, and there's not a lot of mass to it.
Yeah.
That's what I like as far as shoes for work.
Yeah, you
So-
don't want to be like sporting around clunky ass boots or something like that.
no.
That would make for a rough day.
So I'm really excited to get those.
Nice. I ruined myself last night, and the last thing I did before I went to bed was I actually watched that Patty Murray, Tiffany
Oh,
Smiley
you
debate.
did? Okay, let's hear it.
It's
Let's-
terrible. It was
yeah.
terrible. It was terrible. Tiffany Smiley is, she's Tiffany Smiley. She's kind of a Washington version of, I don't know how I would phrase it. Like Joe Kent is a MAGA guy, right? She's not a Joe Kent, but she's like as close as you can get to that by still being like relatively Washington friendly. She's her stance on abortion was really big. It's very, I want it to be in the States. She makes it clear that she herself is pro-life.
Yeah.
But her big thing is like, I have taken on big government, and you are a part of big government, and you are,
Which is true.
which is true. And because she got involved fighting against quote unquote big government when her husband got blown up and got blind. And so dealing with the VA and shit like that for a lot of years, and ultimately led her to this, trying to become a senator and all that stuff, because she wants to just start cleaning house in there. But it was not great to listen to because the production value was not good, first of all. And then obviously Patty Murray,
WTV is not a good.
No.
Washington TV is
it's not good.
No.
It was a weird debate format too. Like they didn't actually have opening statements. It was like they just kind of opened with like a broad question that led them to just give an opening statement, which was kind of weird. And then you only get to have 2 rebuttals. And so you get to raise a little card that you have if you want to rebut something that the other person said. Yeah. It was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It was dumb. Patty Murray, you don't even need to watch it to understand what she's going to say. It's just every single Democratic establishment talking point. It's, we're going to codify Roe. Our democracy is under assault. Just go down the line. Climate change is going to kill us all. And it was just all the same shit. It was a total waste of my life. It was not good. I despise Patty Murray, but yeah, that was it, and it was not good. But Maybe we should just start with that real quick because it's really quick and easy.
Oh, yeah?
But we were visited this week by the illustrious vice president of our United States, because this Senate race going on in Washington right now has been something that it's been like what I call a sleeper race. A lot of people are starting to call it a sleeper race now. Washington State has just generally been always a deep blue state. Nobody ever had to worry about it. Democratic to win all the time as far as the federal, the electoral college and shit goes.
Yes.
It's always going to be blue. So they didn't think about it. Patty Murray's an established senator. She's been there for 30 years. I think she's been in the Senate for 20, something like that. But she's been in Washington, D.C. for 30 fucking years. And Tiffany Smiley's just been like creeping up on her. And the polls that have, the latest poll to come out, let me pull this up. The latest poll to come out in the state puts her at 46%. Oh, it's one of these. Yeah, it's like 46% versus 48%, Patty Murray.
Ooh.
With, another
margin for error.
A margin for error for one, and then a bunch of undecideds. And so the DNC all of a sudden got really, really worried and decided to start deeply funding her race, gave her a bunch of money.
A lot of commercials
lately, yes. And then, of course, we were joined by Kamala Harris was out here.
Yes.
She came out earlier this week, and I think initially it was supposed to just be to, like, boost the infrastructure bill, because we got a big, like, grant from the infrastructure bill to fund, forget how many of it, electric school buses. And
right,
while that was going
on,
on,
deal of like diesel and
yeah, it's a whole thing. It's stupid, but yeah, it's electric school buses are the way of the future, and we get to hear about how much Kamala Harris loves electric school buses, which is just hilarious. But while this was happening, Patty Murray was right next to her the whole time, and then they did a couple campaign things together and all that, because they are fucking worried that the state's going to revolt and throw out one of the Democratic senators, which may happen. This is probably the only time in my life it's been like close enough that it could happen. There's enough discontent even within standard Democratic Party loyalists that are like, Joe Biden's done nothing but fuck us over. Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell have done nothing for this state other than fuck us over continually. So we might just say, fuck you, we're pulling you out of the office. But we'll see.
We know firsthand now how horrific crime is getting,
yes, we do.
Around here.
Yes, we do.
So when we're not...
Everybody sees it.
We're not the only ones. And I told you why we went to Seattle last weekend, and there was the surveyors walking around there like, oh, we can't even fucking use a porta potty because the homeless people have destroyed it, so the people who rented them have chained them up now, so no one can get into them. Yeah. So we're here being paid by this company, and we can't even use the facilities that they've also paid for us to be able to use.
Yeah, required by law.
Yes.
Required by law to provide to construction sites. But, I mean, it's that.
Filled with needles so we can't go in there.
People that actually run construction sites having to try to like lock up their entire site the best they can because shit's going to get stolen. I mean, that's been happening for years at this point around here. But, with Joe Biden can lie about gas prices as much as he wants and tell everybody how awesome it is, but everybody drives to work. Everybody knows how fucking expensive they are. Everybody knows how expensive groceries are. Everybody feels how expensive, everything is. They can't lie to us about that anymore. And people are saying, enough is enough. We're fucking done with you psychopaths. All you do is spend all this fucking money. You print a bunch of money. And most people don't even connect the dots that much. They just know that they are markedly worse off today than they were before.
Well, and they also see when they look at the Republicans, at least they're not lying to me about anything. They're telling me we don't want abortions. We would rather it be left up to the states, but we're telling you we don't want that. We're not interested in that. They're telling you we don't want to spend any more money. We're not interested in that, whether it's here or in fucking Ukraine. We don't want to spend any more money. We don't want to do that anymore. We're not interested in that. We don't want to make it easier to help anybody. We want to make it easier to vote. We don't want to do any of those things. They're being very open about we don't want these things. We're telling you that right now. So anybody, it's if that's your deal, is you're tired of being lied to, you're tired of being deceived, that people are gaslighting you to your face, they're standing in front of you and lying to you.
Yep.
I may not agree with this person, but at least they are not lying to my face about the reality of what is going on here.
Yeah.
They're like, it sucks right now.
It
We know
super
that,
sucks.
but also we didn't do this because we don't want to spend any more money.
Exactly. But thankfully, because she is in such dire straits, that led us to be able to witness this illustrious
God.
moment for the history books.
Who doesn't love a yellow school bus, right? Can you raise your hand if you love a yellow school bus, right? Just, there's something about the, and most of us, many of us went to school on the yellow school bus, right? And it's part of
So
our
cringe.
experience growing up. It's part of, a nostalgia and a memory of your leadership. Mayor, thank you for the warm welcome.
Yeah, that's enough of that. She likes two things in life more than anything else. She likes a good Venn diagram, and she
Yeah.
likes a yellow school bus, apparently. It's so bad, dude. It's real bad when you're number 3 in the leadership pyramid in the Democratic Party is in such dire straits. You got to call in the VP to try to go out and do something.
Most of my life was on the yellow school bus. Oh, most of my life on the yellow school bus was a nightmare.
Hard, yeah.
Riding the bus is pretty horrific.
It was
not a good deal.
It was a dog eat dog world. You had to make your way. That was a whole different social acceptance level. Social. I don't know how you want to put it.
Yeah.
But it was like a whole nother world. The life on the school bus was not just rainbows and sunshines.
People were savage on the school bus.
Yeah, I mean, you had to fight to get a good spot, and then you kind of nailed down this corner, and then you had a little group of people around you, and you had your own little clique on the school bus, and then only the real cool kids got to sit in the way back. At least on my bus, that was how that worked. But there was these little gangs of people on the school bus But then once you got off the school bus, that was gone. Didn't matter anymore. It only that social circle only existed on the school bus. That was it. After that, you went to your own separate social circles within the school itself.
And my school
it's a
bus,
weird deal.
The school buses were not too bad with that when I was in high school. When I was in junior high, for sure.
Definitely a monarchy.
Yeah,
100%
it was real
Bilbo.
bad with that. In high school, it was more split because more people were driving and stuff,
Yeah.
So it was really just only the people who had to be riding the bus were riding the bus. I
Yeah,
used to get
that was a
into
thing.
it
You could
a lot.
that cusp, the age difference there.
Yeah.
When because people started school at certain years, right? And then
Right.
there's ones that started earlier than you did or not, and so you're one of the only kids in your grade because you're a year younger than most people that still had to ride the bus while all your other people were gone now.
Yeah.
And then you were kind of king of the bus then because you were you were the monarch of the bus. I've been there the longest, man. I don't have my driver's license yet, so I'm lowering my social status outside the bus, but on the bus I am king.
I used to get into it a lot for specific seats. The seats with the emergency doors are wider. And I was
an
very
airplane.
tall, so I used to prefer those seats. And there was always in the beginning of the year, times in which you would have to quarrel with a new person who was no, this is where I'm sitting. You're the same dude. You're this is the 3rd year now I've been riding this bus.
This is not happening.
This is the seat that I'm going to sit in when we're here in the morning and when I come home in the afternoon. And I'm going to be comfortable.
It's my spot.
I don't want to be here. Yeah, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
I'm fucking bigger than you. I will absolutely
You're in my
I
seat,
will
man.
physically remove you from that seat and put you in another one.
Yes.
It's not only one time that happened.
Man. And then as
Fuck a
you
school
grow
bus.
up too, then your relationship with school buses completely alter because the minute you're not on the school bus and you start driving, and then you get behind school buses, or you're having to stop for
Yeah,
school buses,
yeah,
and
and
then
I-
they're just all terrible.
I took city bus for a long time, so
Oh yeah, you could do that in places. Can't do that out here in the sticks, bro.
told you I lived in the sticks. They just don't run the bus routes as often,
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the one that went to my house only ran every other hour. I did a lot of waiting. There's a lot of waiting because I lived farther out.
Yeah.
That's just how that was. They just don't run as often. You can get them. They just don't run as often. You do
Don't
a lot-
miss one.
Do a lot. Yes, do not miss it. You do a lot more reading, a lot more waiting.
Yeah.
You did a lot of smoking of cigarettes, a lot of that shit, just hanging out.
Just waiting at the bus stop.
Yes, did a lot of that. I used to hand roll my cigarettes for a long time. So the rollies, Sitting there, yep.
Fucking fancy you. Look at that.
No, that's not fancy.
That's usually like
the poor man's way to do it.
That's right.
You buy a large bag of tobacco that costs like $15. It's like 3 cartons of cigarettes. If you can't roll them. So you just buy papers.
That was a big thing on my last ship in the Coast Guard I was on. Everybody got real big into that for some reason. Was just everybody started to buy loose tobacco.
Yeah.
And then they got these little rolling machines. And so, like, when people had duty and shit and there was nothing to do at night, they just sit there for hours and just and then just bust out fucking cigarettes for hours.
So
man.
around around that same time, there was, and I don't know if they were doing this on the East Coast, but here there was a short period of time, maybe 2 years, where there was a bunch of stores. They were DIY tobacco stores. And you could go there and you would buy a bag of tobaccos and a box of tubes like that. And they had an automated machine. And they would roll your cigarettes for you. And it was like tax-free. You just paid a fee of like $5. So, yeah, and
I'm into it.
They roll your cigarettes for you in just an automated machine. So it was cheaper, because you're buying what a box of tubes was like $5. Like I said, a bag of tobacco was like $15. So you're getting a whole carton of cigarettes for like $25, which is a fucking screaming deal for
a huge deal
for even the cheapest of cigarettes. So that was a big thing, and then obviously the state was like, "Wait! You're telling me that we're not dipping into this?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here!" And they shut it all down. Yeah, there was a very short time where that was happening, but they were.
Tell me why I hate the state.
They were popping businesses. I remember sitting outside waiting for my mom, and there's a line of like 10 people in this store with 2 or 3 bags of tobacco and a couple boxes of tubes just waiting to get their shit rolled up.
I respect them because I know the pain that a driver feels.
A bus driver?
Yo, you be a bus driver, Bilbo?
We knew a bus driver.
Yeah.
It's rough business.
He don't still drive buses, does he?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that was like a thing he was doing for a while, though. I remember that. I always wanted to like catch him driving a bus, but I never did. Oh, all I know is that his movie game during Halloween time or during October is on point.
Fire.
Shout out fucking Mac Rays, dude. Follow him on Twitter because you can see him and his girl post the movies they watch every single day. So sometime I'll get on there and we'll talk about these movies.
Yeah.
He watched The Witch a couple days, or I don't know, it's probably like a week ago. I was like, dude, please tell me you like this movie because nobody else I know likes it.
Did
He
he
was
like
like,
it?
it's great, man. I love this movie. It's a great movie.
The movie was
good
fine.
period piece.
My only deal was like when I watched it, you had hyped it up. You were like, "This movie's great. This is like the first scary movie I've seen in a long time.
Super
That's like
creepy,
really good."
dude.
It's okay. Like the movie is pretty good. It's not a scary movie. It's a good movie.
It's a creepy movie.
Yeah.
The whole time you're just waiting for something to like go down, and then the scariest thing is like a goat looking at you. You're like,
right.
All right.
But you hyped it the fuck up, and so we watched.
It's a great movie.
Like, this was lame. This was dumb. But the movie.
You love my taste in movies.
Good. Oh shit.
Look at you dropping Mikeys. It's sometimes it's got a erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, they're getting old. You know, it is what it is.
They are. All right. So next local story we want to touch on. This is not a huge. What? Hello?
Let me ask you this.
Oh my God.
With that, let me ask you this. Yeah, no, I have a simple one, and you said that you have one too, because we're talking about midterms, we're talking about these type of things. So, as we roll down, I forgot to.
Thank you.
As we roll through with the midterms, right?
Yeah.
They're rolling in. It's the 29th now. Oh, because we didn't talk about what day and time it is either. Man, we're out here. We're
what a day today.
Balling. Right now it's 12:36. The date is October 29th, 2022. This is episode 136 of Salt of the Streets.
Fact check true.
Yes, we're out here. So
I just noticed you can't see that in your shot. That's sad.
all right. That's okay. Let me ask you this. Okay, so as we get close to the midterms, what, if anything, do you think will change after the midterms, assuming that the Republicans take the House and the Senate, making Joe Biden a lame duck president? Right? What do you think will be different, if anything?
With that assumption, nothing.
Why?
Because uniparty. That's why. There is zero. I mean,
uniparty.
Let's put it this way: there will probably be some societal unrest. I would imagine that will slowly build. Probably not like right then and there, but
if the Republicans win.
Yeah, if they get full control of Congress, then yeah, shit's gonna go haywire because they're going to do some stupid shit, try to put up some bills that are doomed to fail, just like the Democrats have done over the last couple of years that are just not, things that need actual majority votes. And without, filibuster in place. Like, without a lack of the filibuster, they will just die. There'll be virtue signal bills and stuff like that. I don't see any of that stuff going away. The funding to, our great march towards World War III will not stop. If anything, it'll just probably be a little bit more, pushed faster, I would imagine. There's nothing a good neocon loves more than sending money that helps start wars. Trying to think of what would ultimately change. I mean, the only difference would be there'd be a lot of like social shit, that social bills and things like that probably would not be allowed. But we're going to have a whole new realm of investigations that'll kick off, that'll end up going nowhere, which is sad because like there needs to be like a good solid investigation of like Fauci and shit like that. But the way it'll be done will be disastrous and nothing will really ever happen.
It couldn't possibly be done in like a bipartisan isn't a good word, but like unbiased or unpolitically motivated
that's gone
way.
Out the fucking window. That doesn't exist anymore.
Because there is actual non-political...
Afghanistan?
Yeah.
That needs to be looked into.
There's non-political reasons to investigate those things because the American people deserve to know the truth behind what happened with COVID and Anthony Fauci and Peter Daszak and all these kind of the NIH. We deserve to know what happened with this. We deserve to know the truth about Afghanistan. We deserve to know JFK. We deserve to know all of these things.
Yes.
But I agree. I don't.
We deserve to know why they're manipulating the fucking COVID virus in a lab in Boston. Why are they taking the original Wuhan strain and adding the spike protein from the Omicron strain? Why the fuck are they doing that in Boston? Of all fucking... Do we not just do this? All that shit needs to be brought up to the front and talked about. I mean, obviously there's going to be a push for, fucking stop the steal stuff. That's obviously going to be front and center, which will just do nothing but continue to destroy everything and everybody. If that happens, when that happens, because I don't see it not happening, but like when all these things really start coming into the fore, it's just going to continue to just tear at the fabric of society and just rip us in half. So I don't see anything good at all coming from this. I mean, I would say it would be better that the Republicans take power, but also I don't see how things will like get better. It will be better that they're there. It's the old, what is a Republican compared to a Democrat? He's just a progressive driving the speed limit. It's all still going to go the same direction, man. I don't know. There won't be anything crazy because you won't have a bombastic leader at the front end trying to do crazy shit like Trump did. There won't be any. They won't really be able to do anything. So that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that they would have to get they would have to get a veto-proof majority if they were going to get anything legitimate done.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's a good chance that Joe Biden vetoes whatever they cook up if it's not.
And they can't get that in the Senate. Like, there's just not enough seats up.
Right.
If they get all the seats that are up for grabs now, they still won't have that in the Senate then. I mean, that won't come around until 2024. And then even then, I don't know what states are up for grab at that point. But they just won't have the numbers there. They might be able to pull out a miracle and get those veto-proof majority in the House. But then you'll just have a repeat of the Nancy Pelosi era of the Democratic Party-led House. I mean, it's just... I don't see nothing real happening, man. Nothing real happening at the federal level. State level, maybe, who knows. But nobody's really watching those races necessarily. All the local, state level stuff.
Yeah.
I would hope that if there's going to be a red wave on the federal level, there's also a red wave on the local level. But who knows about that one? Nobody knows. So we shall see. That's where I'm at with that. Not great.
I like it.
But I did want to ask you this question today, too. So we watch and listen to a lot of social and political commentators,
Yes.
right? And it started to get me thinking today because a lot of the people, especially on the conservative side, I think, like to relate to the everyman, if you will, and try to pass off as if like they can actually speak to the people like you and I who work for a living and who also have to deal with all this other next level governmental type shit. Do you think that there's any actual prominent political commentators out there that even remember what it's like to work a day in their life? And that can actually relate to the common man? Because I don't think so.
Let's see. Let's take a look at my podcasts. We'll go down this list and we'll see if I think any of these people. Because I think there's no doubt that like these people work hard, you know, some of them.
Oh yeah, work hard is one thing, but to actually like have to work a real life job and understand what it's like to work a real life job or jobs.
Yeah. Ooh, Feticy on JRE.
Ooh.
So
For real, for real?
for real.
A new one? Nice. She was just on there, right?
Today.
Oh,
3.5 hours too.
yeah.
So there you go.
I like her a lot. Dumpster Fire's been fire lately. Extra fiery dumpster fire.
And Dr. Phil. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Dr. Phil was not that great. His last appearance was pretty good. This one was lackluster at best. Even Dr. Phil thinks things are bleak. We'll put it that way.
That's no good.
No.
So looking at my podcasts, the only person I could see on there is like maybe Tim Pool. And he was a journalist, you know. He did
But he
other
stays
shit
pretty
before that,
grounded.
so
Yeah.
let's see. Let's go YouTube, and we can look at some of my subscriptions. We can see what I got going on there.
What about you, Bilbo? What about you?
Yeah.
Anybody that you listen to, watch, or read regularly, do you think they can actually relate to you in your everyday life?
Steven Crowder's been in show business for a very long time.
His entire life, damn near. But don't forget, you know, when he had to take buses to go do his crappy comedy shows.
Yeah. Russell Brand, maybe. What's his name?
Russell Brand's been in Hollywood for a hot minute.
Eric July.
Eric July.
Eric July is one.
Yep. He knows.
But I mean, you can see how difficult it is for me to.
Yeah, right. We're trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel.
Eric July, Tim Pool. I don't know what Michael Malice did before he was writing books.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's always kind of been more of an intellectual guy.
Yeah.
He's always had soft hands, I think. Pretty sure he would be very upfront with that.
Benjamin Boyce. I don't know what Benjamin Boyce does outside of making YouTube content.
Yeah, because he went to
he went to
his thing.
school
He went to
before
school.
that, yeah.
at Evergreen State College, and then now does this. So it's just it was something. I think it came to me when I was watching Crowder or something the other day. Because he always likes to do, like, these people don't understand what it's like.
Yeah,
right?
that's all
Bitch,
I've
neither
got.
do you, dude.
I just went through all my subscriptions. That's it. That's all I've got.
So, yeah.
Benjamin Boyce.
We're the most base people you know, is what you're saying.
As far as commentators go, people who are working actual jobs, real jobs. And
Maybe Shoe on Head.
Shoe on Head, yeah, who knows
Maybe.
what Shoe on Head does. She got a French-ass name, you know that?
No, I don't.
It's like June Lapine or some shit like that. Yeah, Jordan looked it up. She's got a French-ass name. Yeah.
Her latest video was fucking
Fire,
great,
Hell
dude.
World. If you don't watch
Yeah.
Shoe on Head, go watch Shoe on Head's content. That
It's
was
so
fire.
good. So good. And it's real easy to watch.
New Dave Smith coming out right now. There's all kinds of stuff going on right now.
Some real good
Kanye
stuff.
versus the Jews, it's called. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I'm super excited for
It's
that.
getting rough out here, dude. All this,
You know,
it's getting rough. On the way out here,
Yeah.
I was driving out here on Hansville Road.
Shit's getting rough.
Was a guy right at the corner by that Safeway, and he was walking with a dog on a leash, just open carrying an AR-15.
really.
Yeah.
Did he have a shirt on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a jacket. He was fully clothed and everything.
Interesting.
Yeah, he didn't look like a homeless person.
That's weird for out here.
It was very weird.
Interesting.
It was very weird.
I wonder. Very strange. 'Cause we just had our favorite bar that got in a shooting incident or whatever last weekend.
Yeah, and
That's
like
a whole
like
deal.
a rifle too. It was
Yeah.
full length. Like it wasn't like he had a shorty pistol. It was a full length rifle because it was like down by his knee. Yeah, it was long.
Interesting. What are you doing, big guy? Interesting.
Weird deal.
Weird deal, man.
Yeah.
Shit's fucking. It's fraying. The fabric is fraying, bro.
Yeah, don't
Not-
get it wrong.
not that.
I'm all into people doing what they want. You know what I'm saying? I don't have any problem with people, but it's weird. The time and place is very weird.
Yeah.
That location is very odd.
It's very, very strange because, yeah, we're not allowed to shoot a fucking long rifle
right.
north of the Mason-Dixon line, as I call it up here. Yeah, there's a fucking imaginary line that runs, I think it's like between Bremerton and Seebeck.
Yeah.
And anything north of that, county ordinance says you cannot discharge a long rifle. That's how we got hemmed up at homie's house that day. Because even though we were just north of the line, and you couldn't do that.
Really?
Yeah. Or no, that was because lot size. It was like a 0.01% too short or whatever like that. It was
because
down.
we go out to fucking, what's it called, up at the mountain.
Oh, that's only on the Kitsap Peninsula. Only on in our county. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's fucked.
And that's why our homeboy got told he couldn't shoot his own yard.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, but if you go right there, then you're no longer in the zone anymore, so you can go.
This place is a fucking...
Yeah, I thought we had rights here.
Any given leftist would pull this and be like, these guys are complaining about not being able to shoot a rifle, but it's the...
Then I don't want to hear you complain about not having abortions. How about that?
It's the ridiculousness of all of the different regulations that are stacked and stacked and stacked and different versus across a fucking bridge somewhere.
Yep.
It's all in the same state. It's, I guess, a different county between Jefferson and, but get the fuck out of here, bro. It's a bridge. It is a bridge. It's too much.
This is why it's so important to pay attention to the bottom of the ticket, baby, because those motherfuckers are the ones that directly control your life, not necessarily up top. I mean, these days,
fuck you, that's why.
The ones on top control your lives way more than they have ever been able to do throughout the course of history.
Yeah.
But it's still, the proverbial dog catcher that can most impact your everyday life. Yeah. But yeah, that was something, just to put a bow on that, on my little question there for you.
Yes.
It's really struck me this week that, we listen to all these people and they talk so much about how it affects, your everyday life and this, that, and the other thing. But bitch, you cannot relate to us almost as much as Joe Biden can't relate to us. Like, it's a couple steps removed, but that's about it. There is no connection to what the everyday person feels compared to if you make enough money on the internet to become a political social commentator, you basically no longer relate with the people that have to work a 40-hour plus job.
Right. The closest connection they have are the people who work for them.
Yeah.
That's the closest connection they have to that reality.
Yeah.
Because there's such a disparity between the type of work that's done at a Crowder level versus the people who work underneath him.
How many fucking employees does that piece have?
Somewhere between 18 and 20.
It's just... Oh, that drives me nuts. All I need is I need an investment of $20,000 and we can have a show that looks just as good as his I could still do it by my fucking self.
Can you imagine what we could do with 18 employees?
Can you run the world,
imagine
baby.
what we could do with 18 employees?
Exactly. So I just wish I had a little bit more CCP in me so we can I can have no moral quandaries about taking advantage of slave labor or the big one. If you read Tim Ferriss, you know who Tim Ferriss is, right? The 40-hour work week or 4-hour work week. In that book in particular, it's outsourcing. You get a social media manager that you can communicate over the internet that works over in India because you could pay them $50 a month, whereas here you'd have to pay somebody $3,000 a month or some shit like that. It's that's how you make money, by making really cheap outsourced labor do all the real work while you don't.
Yeah.
Not into that. If I didn't have any moral scruples, maybe could take advantage of that.
Right.
Get on Fiverr and find some cheap labor that you can just automate a bunch of stuff. But no, I'm not going to do that. Come on now. I got moral scruples, bro. I work for a living. I got scruples.
Scruples, dude.
Yeah. It's great shit. Great shit. You like that question, did you?
Yeah, it's good. That's good.
It's not every day I make you think. All right, so let's hit this one real quick. This one, because we've talked about this case more than once.
Multiple times. That picture's hilarious.
He needs to quit Tim Tebowing is what he needs to quit doing. This is already trademarked.
Here, on the field, everywhere.
Yeah, but the big news, before it was Coach Kennedy from the assistant football coach from Bremerton High School. He got hemmed up for a First Amendment thing because he was praying after games with certain members of the team on the field, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately was fired and then took the case to the Supreme Court. We talked about it at the time. And then he won the case at the Supreme Court. And then the big question was, what's he going to do now? And he was like, I don't really know, because they were living in
Florida,
right?
Florida.
Well, now the big news is high school football coach who led prayers on the field will get his job back.
Yeah.
So now he's over there living in Florida, maybe just got his house wiped out by the hurricane, and now he is going to be reinstated as the assistant football coach for Bremerton High School, which is prestigious position.
Yeah, it's not.
There's really nothing else to this story.
We've got to try and frame it for you guys that this is not Texas.
No.
Bremerton is not Texas. It's not. They're not even generally a competitive high school football team. They're like pretty okay. It's regarded as one of the worst schools in the area. It's not a good.
It's because Coach Kennedy hasn't been around. That's why.
Not because of sports, just because it's not a good school.
We're not like an area for, not everybody's Larry Dixon.
It's in West Bremerton, and West Bremerton is the worst side of Bremerton, and
You're a lion, dog, face, pony soldier.
Yeah, it's just not good. It's not good. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, good for him, but I don't know that I would travel back from Florida to Washington for an assistant football coach job.
For Bremerton. Yeah. But
I mean,
according to NPR, he's reinstated to his previous position as assistant coach of the Bremerton High School football team, on or before March 15th, 2023.
I think I probably would have been happier with the win of the First Amendment thing. And
just
like,
walk
now
away.
we can go, other people can use this precedent in the future.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have wanted my job back.
I don't know if I would have either.
But
man.
I guess that's
like,
what this whole deal was to
maybe it's
begin
principle.
with,
Yeah, it is
If
principle,
you're going
right?
to win, then you almost have to, this is what you wanted, You almost have to do it.
I got to go back for a season.
Yeah.
We're not moving back. I'm just going to go do this for, the 2023 season.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back because
really
the
funny.
assistant, he's not even the head coach. But yeah, finally we put a bow on this thing. It's been quite the journey. It was a victory for free speech and the freedom of religion.
Good for Joe Kennedy.
Fucked a little bit on the state, which we always like.
Good for Joe Kennedy.
Good for Joe Kennedy.
Yeah.
So, are you ready to break down some breaking points?
Let's do it.
I am so jazzed
We've been
about
talking
this.
about this segment for a long time, and so what we're going to do, like Colin said, breaking down breaking points. Breaking Points is a show, if you've never seen it, it's hosted by two people, Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be on The Hill, and they hosted a show called Rising. This is pretty much Rising, but now it's owned by them, so they can kind of pick their own topics, and they do a thing in the end called Monologues, and this is a debate supposedly that they get into. It's a kerfuffle, a disagreement, rarely, because they rarely disagree about something. So this is specifically about John Fetterman's wife and like whether or not it was cool of her to be putting John Fetterman in this position and also coming out and attacking people for being ableist, for questioning his ability in the debate and in his performance and stuff like that. So we're going to watch kind of the first half of this video because then they start to talk about like other midterm races and stuff like that. So kind of watch the first half and we'll pause at certain points and talk about why these are good takes and why they're not good takes.
Yes.
So
at any point, just let me know. Just be like, all right, pause it right there.
Absolutely.
We'll do a Dave Smith style.
I like it.
There's another piece of this, the media piece, which is, we covered when he did that NBC News interview, and there was this whole freak out about the reporter who interviewed him, and they had closed captions for him, and the interview itself was a little bumpy, but not nearly like this debate. But the part that caused the controversy is that the reporter whose name I can't remember. Dasha Burns. I always want to say Dara for some reason. Anyway, she said in preamble to the interview, this was an unusual interview, and it didn't appear to me that when we were making small talk beforehand, before the closed captions were on, that he was necessarily understanding what I was saying.
And pause button there, because I'm fairly sure that when that story broke and Dasha Burns was getting roasted by the rest of the mainstream media, pretty sure they did defend her and the ability
Yes.
to be able to have that conversation at the very least.
And what they're referring to is a story where the woman she worked for ABC or something like that. It doesn't really matter where she worked for.
One of the corporate press outlets.
She did an interview with John Fetterman, and before it was released, she was tweeting about how, before we did this interview and before the closed captioning was set up, he seemed to be having a hard time tracking what we were talking about just in small talk.
Mm-hmm.
The internet flipped out about how she's an ableist and, how could you treat somebody this way? And
it was
blah,
one of
blah,
those
blah.
How dare you?
moments.
Yeah, exactly. Other people coming out saying that she was a piece of shit and all this type of stuff, saying that she was lying. Other reporters saying they had talked to him and that wasn't the experience, all this type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then we watched the debate. If anybody didn't see the debate, if you've even seen clips and stuff like that, it's super rough. We're going to talk about it in the grab bag. We'll play some clips maybe. It's bad news. It's
Bad news.
real bad news.
Yeah.
So that's what they're referring to.
There was a huge backlash to those comments that was really over the top. Kara Swisher, who had just interviewed Fetterman previously, she sort of led the charge here. She said, sorry to say, but I talked to John Fetterman for over an hour without stop or any aids, and this is just nonsense. Maybe this reporter is just bad at small talk.
Got that Kevin
That
Bacon
really
haircut.
kicked off some overwhelming criticism of this reporter. We've got an AP report that sort of, summarized. Go ahead and put this next piece up. NBC reporters comment about Fetterman draws criticism. There's a BuzzFeed article, put that next piece up, that says disability advocates say the response to John Fetterman using closed captioning in an interview as he recovers from a stroke was deeply upsetting and stigmatizing. My view at the time was like, I always think it's legitimate whether it's
this isn't about
Biden
the
or
Fetterman thing. This sweatshirt thing, I think it's weird. Right? It feels very forced. Because there's a way that you can look like an everyman and also not look like you're trying to not care. He's like, because he's in his head, what's the most opposite thing of a fucking suit? A hoodie.
A Carhartt hoodie.
Carhartt hooded
Yeah.
sweatshirt.
Worker.
Specifically, a Carhartt one, because it's always the Carhartt one.
Yeah, what are you wearing
It's
Carhartt
always
right now?
Carhartt. It's always, and I'm not running for fucking political office. I'm not trying to look like I'm not a hard worker.
No, you just are an everyman.
So, it's always the Carhartt sweatshirt with and not just a Carhartt sweatshirt, right? Because they haven't always had this deal on the sleeve, and you can get ones that don't have it on the sleeve.
Yeah.
If you didn't want people to know that you're wearing a Carhartt sweatshirt specifically, you could get one that just has the little emblem on the pocket, and that's the only thing that says Carhartt, just the square on the pocket.
Yep.
You want people to know that you're wearing a Carhartt sweatshirt. Very, very specifically. It's very planned. You could just wear a white t-shirt or a black t-shirt, and it would still look clean and presentable and fine. Also, like a fucking everyman, because it's a t-shirt. It's just a regular t-shirt. This, to me, it's too calculated. It's too much. I want you to feel like I'm an everyman, even though I'm not. That I don't like.
Well, I also I have other theories about why he also wears hoodies all the time. Because it does... Not trying to say shit about it, but he's got a massive hump on his neck, and with all the other things, and so the hood helps hide that.
Okay.
That's, not saying nothing about whatever that is. I don't know.
It
but
is what it is.
It is what
but
it is.
That is the reality.
But I think that's part of that calculated.
Okay.
Because his hood is always kind of ruffled too. It's always kind of up
Pulled
and
up a little bit.
and poofy.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are an everyday wearer of the hoodie,
you try and lay it down as much as possible
Yeah.
so it doesn't mess with the back of your head.
You wear that shit like a cape, bro. That's
Right.
that's what you do. It helps you feel regal too. But that's not. I think
messes with my hair if I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You long-haired people like Bilbo.
That's right.
I mean, but the idea, I think it helps. To your point, I mean, he's not ever worked a day in his life, really. He's always kind of been, for lack of a better term, kind of like a trust fund kid, right? He's a huge union advocate, right?
So
and
he
in
started by doing
Pennsylvania,
GED stuff. That was his very first thing.
yes,
Was
it was like
people to
teaching people to get their GEDs and shit like that. So he's never actually been like a real union guy.
A Carhartt
he
worker.
talks about living next to the steel mill and shit like that. He's never been one of those guys.
A Carhartt
but,
worker.
Yeah, but he looks like one of those guys.
Right.
He's big. He keeps the Fu Manchu thing going on in front, and then the bald head. He looks like a construction worker.
Yeah.
He could be. And then you just wear the suit And now you're one of those people, man. You're one of us.
And that's why Crystal, I don't think it's in this thing when she was talking about, the massive potential star power that was in this guy, because he just had just this perfect cultivated image for, being able to, because he didn't look like a traditional politician, because he's ugly, is what you're saying, because he's not a pretty person.
He's not a Gavin Newsom.
It's good that maybe he'll be successful, because then it's not because he's pretty, it's because he's principled and he fucking has scruples, and when really it's not. When really you're not a hard worker. You came from fucking money, and now you want to try and influence things. You want to spread money around because, I have money, and having money is great.
Yeah, and I think part 4 today, we'll pull up some of those clips and stuff like that, and we'll really talk about how much of a shill he really is.
Bilbo said, I feel sad watching this man run. He's being manipulated by someone who is investing in his campaign.
Or, the whole party.
That's very interesting.
That's actually what my piece is about this month.
I like it.
Not just John Fetterman, but he as a part of an entire whole doing the same thing. All right, let's
keep going.
Or Feinstein or Herschel Walker or John Fetterman to discuss health and whether the person is up to the job. I don't think that should be off the table whatsoever. I give him credit for subjecting himself to this scrutiny. But I ultimately think, Sagar, that these people who were trying to effectively cover for him, I don't think they did him any favors.
No, they did huge damage. They should have been honest about it.
Ultimately, part of why Herschel Walker was perceived as doing well in his debate is because they had very effectively set the bar really low for him.
Correct.
I mean, he came out and was like, I'm dumb. He literally said that. He's like, I'm a dumb country boy. And so
Have you been following Herschel Walker's thing at all?
Yeah.
That dude is a train wreck.
He's wild.
He's a train wreck. But I think Crystal's making a point here that she kind of looks at all those people that downplayed his condition at all aspects, right? Everything's fine. He's recovering, blah, blah, everything's good, but then still being real hush about it, and then being confronted all at once in probably the most anticipated and watched national debate of all time at this point.
Yeah.
And then and just nosediving as bad as he did. Nobody did him any favors, and no, I do not. Everybody likes to put that line out, I give him, a lot of props for the courage to go up there and do this. Not at all.
No.
Not at all like that. If you had any real life concern for the representation of the state that you are trying to represent at the federal level, you would have walked away because you would identify that you cannot properly do your job to represent the people of your state for multiple reasons. Walked away and handed it off to somebody else that could have.
Well, I'm not prepared to give someone credit for doing something they are supposed to do anyway. You're supposed to have a debate. I'm not going to give you credit because it looked bad or because of the risk that you took to your public image by doing it. I don't care about that. If it's too risky for you to, like you said, to be on a debate, then maybe you shouldn't be running in the first place. Yeah, I'm not going to give someone
and
credit.
Pennsylvania is another one of those states where early voting had already started before this debate even happened.
I'm not going to give you credit because you did a debate. You're supposed to do a debate. You should do multiple debates so we actually know what you're talking about and what you're about.
Yeah.
I think if there had been actually more view into the nature of where he is in his recovery process, I don't think that this debate performance would have landed in quite the same way that it did. They would have been better if there was more transparency. There would have been better if there was more understanding of the continued struggles. So it wasn't a sort of shock to people when they saw him struggling on the debate stage.
I always believe in them. That's why actually it really pissed me off. Giselle Fetterman, his wife, actually asked NBC to apologize after the reporters.
I can't. This is her husband. I can't blame her for that. Come on, I would protect my husband too.
Look, we have eyes and ears. We can all see it. That's ludicrous.
I can't blame someone's husband or wife for swooping in like that and having that kind of reaction.
This, how you know she's very disingenuous. Her Insta smile like that, and then she starts talking to the air. She starts looking up, and then she's just like, I would have defended my man. She starts with all this weird talk about this. I'm like, no, you're not. No.
Such a huge difference between if he wasn't in the public eye, but you why do you need to? And not even why do you need to, because I'm not going to question why you did something, right? But I'm also not going to act like it's okay and totally acceptable for you to come out and defend somebody who's running for Senate. He's going to be a senator. The whole world is going to have something to say about him, the way that he looks, the way that he acts, the way that he presents himself, the way that he appears to be able to recognize the things that people are saying, those are all going to be topics of conversation. This reporter should not have to apologize, and it's ridiculous for you to ask of that.
Yes.
And it's not, I don't find that to be a defense of her husband. This isn't like, I can't believe that you would say something like that. So you knew what was going to happen. You knew the reality of this, and he's running for fucking Senate.
It's a good ammunition, though.
Bad take.
You're just lying, though.
Come
I mean,
on.
that's the problem with her, which is that she's lied from day one about his status as a... Listen, if you guys want to convalesce in privacy, don't run for public office.
His wife.
Yes.
I don't care.
She's
I mean, they want to
defending
be
him.
the senator
Come on,
from Pennsylvania.
Sagar.
No.
It is unreasonable not to expect the like spouse to be protective of their,
And-
of their guy.
And there's a difference between defending somebody and saying you should apologize for what you've said when it's not an off-base allegation, right? If that woman would have said something like, this guy's completely retarded, he doesn't even know what his own name is, that's a totally different statement between, like,
100%.
I don't even know if he recognizes everything that I'm saying in this conversation. Those are wildly different things. And again, it's also different if she's to come out and just say, I think that that's fucked up what she said, for her to misrepresent this, but to ask that news agency to apologize for something the reporter said when that's the way she perceived this situation, right? That's ridiculous.
It is. It's definitely ridiculous.
That's trying to cover up for something. That's not defending your husband. You're trying to cover
Yes.
something up.
And when the aspect of defending your husband like that, that begs the question. I mean, if that's what you're going to say, like this was her defense of her husband like that, common sense would dictate that there's a lot of other things that you would be doing to defend your husband while he's in the public eye, like maybe try to push him to not be in the public eye.
Yeah.
So that he could focus on recovery, not arguably one of the most mentally stressful things you could do as an American, as in run for a senatorial office on the federal level in a massively important state.
Right.
Maybe if you wanted the defense argument to have some weight, you would have a list or a background of actually trying to actually defend your husband in other ways, not just like this one time because somebody said something bad about him, which wasn't even bad. It was just a factual observation of something that this journalist experienced.
Because after this report, you still put him out on stage to do the debate.
Yep, and then you put him out on stage the next day too, to play off of the debate, which he was markedly better spoken the following day.
I'm sure the stress played a role, right? I'm certain. I mean,
you saw the sweat, man.
I'm certain
pouring down.
The only reason that doesn't matter to me is because being a senator is going to be stressful, especially your first term there when you've never done it before. The first time you have to speak in front of people, it's going to be very stressful. When you're catching heat for something you said, it's going to be very stressful. When you're at a town hall and people are yelling at you because they don't like things that you've said because they're in favor of fracking and you're against it, or they don't believe now that you are in favor of whatever, that's going to be very stressful.
Or how about
you've got to be able to hold it together when you're doing that. You can't just go off the rails and say, I'm in favor of fracking and I'm in favor of fracking and I'm in favor of fracking. That's not going to work. That's not going to be acceptable. And if we continue on and you're in this job for even one full cycle, 5 years from now, is it still going to be a good enough excuse? It's stressful. It's a stressful environment. And, his fucking stroke acts up when he gets stressed. That's not good. That's not
how that should work.
Because then how do we have confidence if you taking a higher position? What if you're the top dog in the Senate? Do you think that's going to not be a stressful position to have to be coordinating everything? What if someone wants you to be a fucking whip at some point? You have to whip up votes and go traveling around arguing with people and trying to make these backroom deals. That's not going to be stressful at all. It doesn't work like that. You don't get in a Senate and stop having stressful times. It gets more and more and increasingly stressful the higher you go up in government.
The first time you have to walk down to the floor of the Senate in front of people like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and, Patty Murray. Hopefully she won't be there anymore, but like all these big, powerful career senators, and you got to go stand there and then give your little speech about whatever the topic is for that day so you can try to sway votes in the Senate. You give your arguments towards whatever bill, whatever thing you're trying to get done.
Right.
The very first time you do that as a virgin senator, you're not going to be nervous as shit.
Right.
It's not going to help.
Especially because if you're so principled as people are claiming, then you're going to run into a lot of very difficult positions because people in government are not principled. And if you're only going to operate off of principle, you're going to have a lot of really uncomfortable times.
Yeah, and I think as we get further in the video, I think you'll understand why the arguments we're making about like the legitimate concerns about him as a senator, they don't factor into Crystal's mind at all.
Here,
You
so
can do
I
whatever
don't
you
think
want
that's
in
unreasonable.
privacy, not in public, which is that if you want, and by the way, there are a lot of weird, sketchy things in their past in terms of her trying to use him for her own political benefit. So I don't know what exactly is going on. Me personally would never let a spouse go up in that kind of condition.
Well, but this. I don't like this. I don't think that that's fair because there's no indication whatsoever that he is not able to make his own decisions.
But we don't know.
So
that.
yeah, but you don't know it either. So, I mean, from
Nobody
what we
knows.
see
That's
in
the
public,
point.
Yes, and the burden of proof is not on me to prove that you can't. The burden of proof is on you to prove that you can because you had a fucking stroke. If I was coming out of left field with a totally wild, baseless accusation, it is then, when we were doing it to Donald Trump, it is on you to prove, right? The burden of proof is on you to show that he is not able to do that job. And that's why the best thing they had is when he's walking down the ramp. And the next time he
Got leather shoes.
And yes, and the next time he does a deal, a campaign event, he's like, I was wearing leather bottom shoes. Like, I'm wearing leather bottom shoes and I'm going to walk down a wet ramp. It's going to be very slick. I might fall. Like,
Where's the non-skid
He said,
people?
I'm old. I might eat shit. Like, I might fucking fall. That might be a thing. So it's
Yeah, it was like I might slip and fall on my ass. Nobody wants that.
For straws, and here it's thrown in your face. You're like, yeah, you can't prove that he's fucking not all with it though. But that's not the point. I don't have to prove it. I shouldn't have to. There shouldn't be a question about this.
We're not in a court of law here, man. He
Yes.
needs to prove himself to everybody else.
making his own choices, wants to be in this race, is very engaged. There's no indication that he doesn't know what's going on whatsoever. I mean, he's clearly able to respond to questions, understand the issues at stake here. So I think it's absurd, this conservative narrative.
That's not an answer to a question.
No, it's not.
that's it.
Especially when the question that was asked was, how do you explain your turnaround from your 2018 stance where you said, no, I'm not in support of fracking at all, to, yeah, now I support fracking and I stand and I support fracking.
Come on, man.
Come on. And put it this way.
That's another drop. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
That's
we need that one.
one.
We need that one. All right.
That's another one.
We got to find a good one.
Yeah.
The point that I think she's trying to make here is that, he making the call on whether or not he could still run, blah, 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 blah. I think that should have been removed from his hands the day he had his stroke and was in the hospital. I think the political party that is running him, whatever the Pennsylvania Democratic Senatorial Committee is or whatever it is, immediately pulls him off because he is 100% incapable of making that decision for any given period of time as he begins the first stages of his recovery with the stroke. And then the nominee has to go to somebody else, whoever the runner-up was. I can't remember the guy's name, but
so he's just going off of whatever, like a doctor's note that he got, where the doctor is like, yeah, you're good to go to run.
Yeah, who's a campaign donor to his campaign also, by the way.
Yeah.
It said he's good to run. And that was cool. I got a doctor's note. I'm fine.
And that's one of his shitty answers was him saying that he supports whatever his doctor says, you know, and I believe that that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of belief here.
Narrative that has taken hold, that she's like some sort of puppet master and they're just propping him up and he has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, we've never seen that
There's no
before,
indication of that. So for me to see her as a human being, reflexively being protective of him, I can't judge that. I can't shame her for that.
Okay, fine. I mean, let's just say it. Let's not shame her for that. Did she do anybody? Did she do the Democrats and the Democratic Party a favor by effectively calling all criticism of his ability to speak ableism? I'm on a political point. Obviously the answer is no, which is that by leaning into this, they have effectively made it so the national press told everyone to ignore their eyes and ears.
But again,
as to how the man is able to speak.
that on the media. Not on.
But they're taking their cues from her.
When he starts to make a good point, she'll just interrupt him.
Yes.
She'll just start to talk over him because he's fucking not an asshole and he'll stop talking.
Yeah.
That's just what he'll do. He'll go for a minute to see if she's going to stop and then he'll stop talking because she's going to continue.
Yep. It's not good.
She does it a lot.
Whenever she doesn't agree with what he's saying, she will stop him and insert herself into that because she doesn't want him to finish saying what he wants to say.
One who's driving.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be the independent press.
All right.
Of course, the family is going to defend him. Like, that's natural. That's human. That's exactly what I would do in a similar situation. Of course, I would be outraged. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's the press's job to be honest and be transparent. And ultimately, as you said, by trying to cover for him, they didn't do him any favors. But I don't think you can blame the close family members for having a human reaction.
Sure. Okay. But if we can bring it back to the mainstream media.
So she does have a point, because also it's not just what's her name, Giselle, I think her name, or something like that. But it's not just his wife that is the issue here, right? It is the greater political apparatus that is pushing him to continue to run. I mean, if you think for a second that the ultimate point of decision making in any high-level federal campaign for office is the candidate itself, you're kidding yourself.
Right.
It's the party that nominated him to run, that ultimately chose them. That's who makes the calls. Those are the people you need to be talking about. The media has a part to play. Obviously, the wife has a part to play, but it's that greater political machinery in the background that nobody's talking about, that makes all the campaign run, that is ultimately to blame. It's probably the wider Democratic Party establishment, if you will, the DNC that is supporting all of these campaigns. They can just go, we're done funding you. We can't do this anymore. We're going to pull your nomination. But it's their call. They're the ones that are going, we can use this. Keep it up. Let's do this.
And I'll keep going because I think he's about to make this point.
And their coverage of it, their about face on it is humiliating for them because they took part in this. And I subscribe to the New York Times notifications just to see what the current thing is.
Yeah.
Last night, 8:30 p.m., they're like, Democrats on a knife's edge over Fetterman's health. I'm like, you guys should have done this months ago.
The other thing to say, though, is, I listened to the podcast with Kara Swisher. I listened to the NBC News interview, and he was not this bad.
Yeah, that's true.
So I do think, it would be fair to have extrapolated from that a different reality of where he is versus, debate's an extremely stressful situation. You're dealing not only with questions from one interviewer, but you're having to deal with this back and forth situation as well. The pressure is on, all the eyes are on you. So I do also think it's fair to point out, he was measurably worse here than when Kara was interacting with him as well. So, I think that's important to keep in mind here, too.
Yeah, but she's humiliated herself because really what it is that she also leaned into the ableism. Look, I get it. She survived a stroke, and God bless her. I'm happy that she survived a stroke and she's able to do her job. I hope that for everybody. And from what I've seen, most of those people need long convalescence, they need a lot of rest, and they need a lot less stress. So in many ways, I feel bad for him because he very, very well may have either shortened his life or hindered his own recovery.
I don't think there's any...
So I think he made the point earlier, and this is what I was going to say about the mainstream media. They used Fetterman's wife's characterization of the take as ableism as a cudgel. That they got behind that and started to spin that. And that's I think the point that Saga made, is that they, to their own detriment, that now they're attacking him when they used it as a cudgel before, and it sets up that narrative that no attack on him is legitimate. And that's the issue with her defense of him. It's not that she said, I don't like this because I don't like the way this is my husband. She said, that's ableism, and I don't like that. And then everyone can use that as a weapon against any concerns against it.
Because
that's not
the
reality.
Daily shows the next morning, it was all ableism all the time. And it's been that since. Here's your new tilt, run with it, go.
And you are not an ableist for watching that debate and saying, I don't know that he's ready for this job. That's not ableist. That's not ableist. It's not. I swear, I can promise you that it's not.
No, man.
No.
We got Governor Wheelchair, bro. He's killing it. He can still do his thing. I mean, he's out there. It doesn't impair his ability to do his job.
Right.
Point being.
And Crystal...
You could be a blind representative. I mean, there are a lot of disabilities that do not hamper or not disable, but they do not make you unable to do the job.
Hinder your ability to be able to
hinder.
do it.
Thank you. Hinder your ability to do the job of representing your constituents. There's a lot of them a lot of things that can't. This one does.
Right.
Obviously, this one does. I'm sorry, there's a lot of things out there that you have to discriminate. You have to make discriminatory stances on because, I mean, you could take a million different examples, but like, you're not going to hire a lifeguard that can't swim.
Right.
You're not going to, mind you, that's a skill set versus anything else, but the concept is still the same. You're going to make a discriminatory decision based off of the qualifications required for the job. If you do not meet those, for whatever reason, you can't do that job.
And the issue is not, because Crystal always tries to bring it back to just the closed captioning thing, and it's not that. It's not just a reasonable exception that's being made, because that's what closed captioning is. That's a reasonable exception to something. That's why you get a fucking movie theater, because that's a reasonable exception by law. That's something that you have to provide to somebody if that's what they need for their disability. This isn't just about the closed captioning. This is about the question of his ability to actually the level of cognition that is there for the questions being asked and the tasks at hand.
Yes.
Those are not the same thing.
Yeah, putting that much stress on your mind after a stroke is detrimental. Amen. The Chris Cuomo on his new show on News Nation, I believe it is, had on I might even have the clip later, pull it up when we actually talk about the debate, but it was a neuroscientist or whatever, or a therapist that deals with stuff like this. And she said that basically at this point in the typical stroke victim's recovery, we're looking at probably about, it could possibly be like this might be where it's going to be for a long time. Based off of therapy and this, that, and the other thing, you might be able to do different things. But to get to this point, 5 months after the stroke, this kind of might be it for a while. And then if you're not going to commit to the therapies and stuff like that afterwards, like right now, and just focus on that, we might be plateauing here. This might just be it. And for that to be said on like a Chris Cuomo show, I thought that was very, very eye-opening.
Right.
But we might get into that actual clip later, but let's keep rolling.
No, actually, the analysis I saw is that there's pushing yourself in terms of regaining your speech and auditory processing abilities is actually good for your recovery. Now, the stress might be another question, but again, he's a big boy. He can make his own choices about his life here. And in the wake of that interview, there were some reactions that, again, I thought it was over the top, the attacks on Dasha Burns or whatever the girl's name was. But I did think it was gross, the suggestion that, like, because someone has to use closed captioning, they're incapable of serving the Senate. That would mean that anyone who was deaf can't serve in the Senate. And I do think that that's outrageous.
Well,
I don't think that that's fair.
Well, but I mean, I think the point that I think a lot of us were making, or at least me, I can only speak for myself, was we don't know if it's only limited to this. I don't know. And like I said, it is on him to prove that his brain is not permanently damaged as a result of what's happened here, not vice versa. We can only speculate based upon what we know.
Well, but you have to give him credit to even like subject himself to these interviews and do the debate when there are other candidates who are who have no physical issues or mental issues who are just like, no, I'm not going to debate this person because I don't want to.
If I was his campaign, I would never let him.
This is the point I was making you
That's
yesterday.
so stupid.
Is lowering that bar, giving people credit for doing what they're supposed to do, for doing their job, right? For filling out the job application, because really that's what this is. Right? Giving them credit for filling out the job application forever lowers the threshold of what is acceptable for a politician. That's why this no debate thing should be completely unacceptable. This deal of fucking Tiffany Smiley and Patty Murray having their debate after early voting has already started, that should not be acceptable. And it shouldn't be that it's just a show like ours that's talking about that. That should be all of the daily shows that are saying, isn't it fucking weird they're only doing one debate and it's after people have already started to send in their ballots? How could they possibly know what people really think if they're not even going to make them answer questions first? Because that's not a crazy thing. That's a very, very basic tenet of democracy, that of actual democracy. That if we're going to, of the voting portion of the government, right, the democratic part of the Republican democracy, that's a vital portion of that. For me to actually know something about you. Not just your campaign ads, not that you think that person's a piece of garbage. It's for me to know something about you and to see, can you answer a question? Do you look like a shill? Do you say anything other than, green energy and fucking Jan 6th and stuff? Do you say anything other than that? Or is that all that you have? There shouldn't be a question, and I'm not going to give you credit for it just because somebody else isn't doing it. I'm not going to do that. That person sucks worse than you do because you only did one. I'm only going to give you a third of the credit because you only did a third of the work for the job application.
Yeah.
Why would I even look at that and give you any credit? Because it doesn't tell me you're going to do a good job in the beginning or in the future, because you're only doing a third of the job now.
And late debates aside, I'm fairly sure we've already reached the point, and it's probably, I don't know when it really, I'd have to dig into this and find out, but I would imagine it's definitely like a post-COVID thing. But the bar, the standard for having debates, period, for any election, I think is now essentially, having a debate now is the exception. I don't believe that there is, we've seen it in all sorts of races right now that's going on. Like the debates are the exception when it should be the other way around. Like you might have an exception to not debate because maybe you're not running against somebody. I don't know. But this is not, our democracy is at stake here. But you threw that away a long time ago.
Yeah. When
you decided, I'm not going to debate this person because they're illegitimate.
Yeah, I'm not going to. You don't get to make that point anymore. You don't get to be holier.
You don't get to talk about democracy, okay?
There is no holier than thou point when you're not willing to, like I said, even fill out the job application.
Yeah.
You're not even willing to tell us why you should have the job. So why would I listen to anything that you have to say?
Yep.
You're not principled. These aren't morals. This isn't scruples. This isn't any of that stuff. This is you wanting power. That's a power grab. That's all that is.
And I think this is where she gets into the reasoning behind why they want that.
Step out on that stage. I've personally.
Yeah, but you have to admit it was the.
It was the right thing in the eyes of democracy.
It was the moral, ethical thing to do.
Yeah, it's true.
Like you have to give him credit for that.
I'll give him credit for it.
So
I don't think it probably would work.
I don't think. Agreed.
Yeah.
Politically, if you're like a cynical political operative, you would just say no. You should just hide until election day and let them find out later where you are in your recovery. He hasn't done that. And I do think he deserves a lot of credit for that. Is that going to mean that, he's not going to end up as United States Senator for the state of Pennsylvania? Listen, I think that it was the right thing to do to let voters judge for themselves, ultimately. And, again, my view is probably the biggest thing he has going against him isn't the stroke. It's the national winds that are blowing very hard against Democrats at this point and are moving the races, in a decidedly Republican-advantaged direction. But I can't help but give him credit for having the courage to have this level of transparency. And frankly, he's been more candid and open with the press than Oz has at this point.
Well, I'm not sure that's true.
That's definitely true.
On the stroke part, I'm not going to drop this. He has lied about his stroke from day one. I remember on the exactly what happened with his heart. His doctors had to come out and leak and be like, listen, this is way more serious than he's letting on. Hides behind a cloak for 2 or 3 months. Doesn't start doing interviews.
But on what matters, really matters, which is how are you going to vote on issues and what are your views? He's been far more upfront and subjected himself to far more questioning than Oz, sitting down with editorial boards that Oz won't meet with, there
it is.
Yes.
There it is. You gave it away there, Crystal. The only thing you care about is how he's going to vote on issues. He is, just give me the corporeal form, bro. Just like the New York Times said about Joe Biden.
Yes.
I don't care. If he is a living, breathing mass of human flesh that can proxy vote at the very minimum, yay or nay, on the bills that he is told to vote yay or nay on, he needs to be a senator, man. The stakes are too important. The political wins are too important here.
Yes. Both candidates are a joke and will screw with the people. I think you're probably right. Yeah, I think you're probably right. And that's the only issue is trying to argue that one is better than the other. it's not that one really
different
is.
Degrees of terrible.
It's not that one really is better than the other. It's trying to argue that one is better than the other because it's a giant douche and a turd sandwich. This is the traditional horrific choice that we are faced with. And that's why they've talked many times on Breaking Points. Well, candidate choice doesn't even matter. Or candidate quality.
Yeah.
That's because they're both pieces of garbage.
Always.
When they're both pieces of garbage, of course candidate quality doesn't matter. Because it's a giant douche and a turd sandwich.
Amen.
Neither of those things is better than the other.
Vote or die.
Yeah. One of them isn't better than the other. So it's not going to be, there is no candidate quality option here. When the choice was Joe Biden and Donald Trump, there is no candidate quality. That's a horrible, horrible choice to be forced to make. That's a horrible choice.
Yeah. Out of the hundreds of millions of people in the country, that's how we always end up like that. We always end up. This you want to know why I don't believe in government? Because this is how it always ends. Every single time. Every race is a trash heap. Very few exceptions. Very, very few exceptions. But if you're looking at a candidate either candidate anywhere and going, well, I don't really like this, I don't really like this, but, you know, they do this, and then this person also doesn't like this, and that, you know, this person's trash, this person's just not quite as trashy. You know, very few exceptions to that ever present themselves.
Right.
And it's generally speaking on lower level candidacies. But yeah, it's not good. I think we're almost done here.
We'll let her finish.
Down for mainstream press interviews that he knows are going to be challenging. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country.
I don't think he deserves any credit for that at all.
No.
Because he's just, it's not good. It's not good at all.
No. So with that, we'll take our first break and we'll come back for part 2. We're talking about some World War III, Iranian drones in Ukraine, all that type of stuff, SAS soldier training.
Have you seen the videos of the Ukrainian boat drones that are filled with explosives? I got some videos, some of that.
Yeah, I just saw one this morning. Yeah,
it was wild.
The UUVs and
ships
stuff.
Getting fucking shot at and stuff like that on the way in. Real interesting. Yeah. Maybe we'll show some of those clips. You never know.
With that, we'll take our first break. We're back in just a few minutes.
Peace.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome to the south of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready.